63 connected out of 99. Ask your friends to join immediately. In my last class, so what is an event? We come across in the previous class. What is an event? How events are going to be generated and how you are going to be handle the events, and what are the callback methods are going to be fired on that particular event occurred. So all these things we come across, and usually the event handling done in three ways. First method is we are doing the same by means of anonymous way or inline representation. You are doing, you are mentioning all the statements in a line of code. That is, we can call as anonymous way. You are representing the statements. Handling mechanism will be done inline way. The second thing is you are implementing on-click listener interface. We are implementing along with the activity class, you are implementing on click listener interface, and we are doing the same there. We are invoking appropriate callback methods. And coming to the third method, we work not only instead of writing the code inside Java, we can maintain by means of XML notations. So say for example the event is button clicked, so inside button XML tag, where we need to define what you can say, where we need to define appropriate on click the event name and followed by the method name. So whenever the button is clicked, the event will be raised from XML itself and initiated appropriate method. So these are the scenarios usually happen in this event handling methods. So sometimes we may use anonymous way, sometimes we may implement interface, on click listener interface, on change, different interfaces we are having. We will see one by one based on, and sometimes you are writing the code inside XML file. So these are all we covered in previous classes along with a simple program. If I have any issues, you please unmute and speak. Or else I move to the multiple event handling mechanism now. It's a very simple thing if you are good at this. So this is anonymous way. Say for example, the button B1 is going to be event is going to be generated for button B1. So say for example, button B1 is clicked. So anonymously you are representing. So you are invoking set on click listener method. That method will accept one interface, one reference of on click listener interface that will have on click method inside. That on click method is a callback method which will find based on this on click listener. So whenever the event is raised by means of B1, the on click listener will initiate on click method and which will be perform whatever the actions mentioned inside this. So this on click method receive one reference, that is view. View is the context where you are which will visualize on the screen. So along whatever the actions you are supposed to mention inside all the things in the form of statements. So whenever button B1 is clicked, you are showing welcome followed by some yes on the screen, right? So here one more method is a user defined method. Based on that, it will be initiated to another. So here it is started the parenthesis of this particular method. Here it is ended the parenthesis. So everything will be there inside the single method, set on click listener method, and you are ended there itself. So you are mentioning everything in the line itself. For our understanding sake, I make in the line by line code, but we started here and we ended here. Please remember this. And we need to put close the parenthesis and put semicolon there itself. This all comes under anonymous way. The next one is using on click listener interface. So here you are just maintaining one, say for example, the same button example, you are using button B and followed by the button class. You are making a reference of this and converting into appropriate button B format. Typecasting, you can say this dot find view by ID, mention the button reference where exactly the button which is defined inside XML file, whatever the button ID you mention the button name, the button ID, r dot ID dot ID name of which is mentioned inside XML file. This is XML information you are referring from Java notation, right? And coming here, you are initiating b dot object dot set on click listener. So you are invoking. So whenever the button is clicked, until unless you click the button, it never works. If you click the button, the set on click listener is going to be initiated to the current object. This always refer the current object. So whenever the current object is initiated, is clicked, or event is generated for this particular button B, that the set on click listener is going to be initiated and which will call the on click method automatically. We are not supposed to call this manually. The system will invoke this method whenever the action is performed, whenever the on click listener is initiated by that particular object B, current object B. Now on click is going to be initiated. In the same scenario here, this action click on click method will have all the actions whatever you want to supposed to perform on clicking the button. Those actions are going to be referred inside this. It needs one reference variable or reference parameter, that is view. View is a class, and we required one reference of that particular view class, and whatever the things you want to do inside this. This is all about what you can say, implementing on click listener thing. So here we need to include or we need to implement the on click listener interface, right? So there is a slight difference between a class and an interface. So classes are extending, interfaces are implementing. Here you are implementing on click listener interface, and you are doing our actions based on that on click listener actions. And the third one is the XML notation. So instead of defining the statement inside Java, we can also maintain the same actions by means of on click attribute. So we need to provide Android colon on click, that should be there along with the button itself. So we need to provide on click attribute inside, and that attribute requires the method name. You should mention the method name here, and whenever you define the method, the system won't give you any error, or else you place the cursor over here and press alt enter, right? So I'll demonstrate one more program based on this XML notation, that whenever two or three controls will have the same what you can say, handler, same handler, say for example. So what happen, how system is going to be recognized which action is for which event, that things we will discuss now. Any doubt in these three notations? Any doubt in these three notations? We need to write the attribute like this: Android colon on click followed by the method name. Here we need to provide a method name. The method has to be exist in the Java program. Public void disp message and follow. You place the mouse here and press alt enter. The system will generate this basic skeleton of the method. I'll show you. Any doubt in these three notations?
No, sir.
I can say one thing very clearly, that it needs the practice. Without practice, just seeing, okay, you may understand the situation, and even we can analyze what exactly happening based on the knowledge of Java. But until unless you practice this, it's very difficult to understand. So try to install Android Studio or Eclipse based on your operating system, and try to practice the code, the programs. And how many of you installed? I send two APK files. Have you installed in your mobiles? మా మొబైల్లో ఒక్కరు కూడా ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసి చూడలేదు అవి గ్రీట్ యూజర్ కానీ యాక్టివిటీ లైఫ్ సైకిల్ స్టేటస్ చూస్తున్నారు ఒకరన్నా? హలో you, it's a matter of 5 to 10 seconds. Go to the file browser where all the downloads are there. In that you try to find that particular file and install that one. Automatically it will install. ఒకసారి సెక్యూరిటీ ఇష్యూస్ ఏమని అడిగితే అక్కడికి వెళ్ళి ఎనేబుల్ చేయండి, అది అలౌ ఆటోమేటిక్గా ఇన్స్టాల్ అయిపోతుంది. అండ్ ట్రై టు టెస్ట్ వెదర్ ఇట్ ఈస్ వర్కింగ్ ఆర్ నాట్. ఒక్కటే ట్రై చేయండి ఫస్ట్, తర్వాత మార్చుకుందాం మళ్ళీ అది. అమ్మా, యూ ప్లీజ్ రెస్పాండ్ ఎనీవన్. హలో
Yes, sir.
అమ్మా, 585, 585, 595, A5, అమ్మా 35, 45,
Sir.
45 లేదు, 55 అవి లేదు, 65 లేదు. అమ్మా ఉన్నారా క్లాస్లో వీళ్ళందరూ?
Hello, sir.
మరి ఎవరు పలకడం లేదమ్మా?
Hello,
వాట్
sir.
అబౌట్
I
రోల్
am
నెంబర్ 1
A5.
2 3 4 5 6 7 8? రోల్ నెంబర్ 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 ఎవరు జాయిన్ కాలేదు?
Yes, sir.
నా వాయిస్ వినపడుతుందమ్మా అందరికి మీకు?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
మరి ఎవరు మాట్లాడరు ఎందుకమ్మా? మీరు వినపడకుంటే నేను ఏమన్నా అనుకోలేదు. ఇఫ్ మై వాయిస్ ఈజ్ క్లియర్ టు యూ ఆల్, దెన్ five 01 joined just now. Today I'll share all the attendance to you. The remaining students, those who are absent now for this class, they need to give their explanations. CRs, will you please look into this and ask them to initiate that they need to provide the explanation why they are absent for today my class.
Okay, sir.
CRs, will you please respond?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
మీరు ఇట్లా ఉంటే కాదమ్మా, ఇట్స్ చాలా యాక్టివ్గా ఉండాలి. నేను ఇచ్చినవి కూడా మీరు ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసి చూడకుంటే ఎట్లంగా? ఒక్కరు కూడా చూడలేదంటే ఇంకా దాన్ని ఎందుకు మరి? ఇవన్నీ టైం వేస్ట్ కదండి నేను చెప్పడం. అప్లికేషన్స్ కూడా మీరు టెస్ట్ చేయలేని టైం అంత బిజీ అయిపోయినారా? సరే సరే, చెక్ అగైన్ లేటర్. సో based on this previous class knowledge, I am going to be demonstrate multiple event handlers. See here, can you define the same event handler method in more than one button? Say for example, this is a scenario. We are having one button and you have defined one method name. Think that we are having two buttons or three buttons. If you supposed to maintain the same method name, is it possible, yes or no? First question. If it is possible, how it is? How system is recognizing which button is clicked on or which button is initiated? The answer is yes for this, but we require one method, that is get id method. So take the get id of that particular button id and we can identify what happening in that. So which button is initiated, and based on that we need to do certain actions. I'll show you a simple example for this. Is my screen visible to you all? అమ్మ కనబడుతుందా స్క్రీన్ ఇది అందరికి?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So here in the relative layout mode, I define two buttons. Button with the name of ID button 1 and one more with the name of ID button 2. కనబడుతుందమ్మా ఇది?
Yes, sir.
Is my screen visible to you all properly? So just
Yes,
drag
sir.
the button and drop over here and you alter the ID as button 1 and the second button ID as button 2. But here I maintain the first button will be center, horizontally center, and layout margin top is 109 dp, say for example. Top to bottom, top to the first button is 109 dp decimal display pixels. But second button is, hey, here I maintain uh, second button is layout center horizontally true, and next one more property is below layout underscore below of button 1. So here I am maintaining a relation that the button 2 will be the below of button 1. This is a property which I mentioned here. So what happened? The two buttons will be there at the center, and first button immediately the second button will be there below. It looks like this. Is it visible? అమ్మ కనబడుతున్నా బటన్స్ రెండు ఇవి?
Yes, sir.
ఇట్స్ ఎ మోడల్,
Yes, sir.
రైట్? సో రెండు బటన్స్ సెంటర్లో పైనుంచి 109 dp పొజిషన్లో బటన్ 1 ఉంది. ఇమీడియట్గా సెంటర్లో బటన్ 2, ఇమీడియట్గా దాని లెఫ్ట్ బిలో కింద ఉంది, లేఅవుట్ బిలో కింద దాన్ని పట్టేసినాం. నౌ ద బటన్ 2 విల్ హ్యావ్ ఎ రిలేషన్. నువ్వు జరిపితే కూడా చూపిస్తుంది చూడండి అది రిలేషన్, రైట్? నౌ it shows like this. So appropriate code will be initiated here, right? So layout margin top is 258 dp. ఆటోమేటిక్గా రాసి పడేస్తుంది అది కోడ్ అది. The only thing is you have an habituate to go for drag and drop the information, right? Now this information is provided. Button 1 top to 109 dp, button 2 below of button 1, but maintain a distance of 258 dp. Okay, number display pixels, right? So this is all about XML notation. But here on clicking button 1, I just mentioned my display method, and button 2 also I mentioned my display method. For these two buttons I am going to initiate only one event handler. So button 1 is one event, button 2 is another event. On clicking button 1 or button 2, I am going to be initiate only one handler. That handler is going to be identify what who initiated, who clicked, whose event is raised. That thing will be defined inside this. Do one thing, this is the method name. You hold the alt button and press enter. Automatically the system will generate appropriate method name. ఈ మెథడ్ స్కెల్టన్ మనకి రాసి పెట్టేస్తున్నది. నో నీడ్ టు గో ఫర్ రైట్ అగైన్, ద సిస్టమ్ విల్ జనరేట్ ఫర్ అస్. సో ఇక్కడ నేను ఆల్రెడీ రాసి పెట్టినాను. ఇక్కడ I took two buttons, so I need two reference variables for two buttons, b1 and b2. And b1 is, I get the reference from the XML by means of find view by id. This is a method name which will refer the id from the XML to Java. The XML notation is r.id.button1. That is the reference, that is id of button 1. That will be view by its id and convert into appropriate button form and assign to b1. Now b1 is able to point to the button which is there inside XML file. The same scenario, button 2 is also pointing to the button 2 inside XML file. Means based on the references you are maintaining b1 and b2. So we didn't mention any on click listener or set on click listeners and so on. You just mention two buttons and directly declaring the method name which is referred inside XML file. So whatever you referred inside XML file, the same name is referred inside Java file. My display, here also my display, the same name for two buttons. So two buttons can use this single method. So for example, the first button is clicked. So how we will know that the first button is initiated? So that information is going to be identified by means of view.getId. So view is a reference variable which will maintain the current ID of who initiated. If it is equal to b1.getId, say for example, what is the ID of b1? Both are the same. Say for example, then you can say that the button 1 is clicked. So very simple scenario. We need to remember get ID of get ID. So view.getId. So view is a reference variable of view class which always represents the current event which is going to be visualized. So view, it's a, or I can do one thing. Don't confuse view. I can take it as a v. Here also I'll take this one as v. Right? Now v is a reference for view class. V dot get id equal to b1 dot get id. If both are the same, you can say that button 1 is clicked. If v dot get id equal to b2 dot get id, you can say that button 2 is clicked. It's a very simple notation. uh, Transient information which will show a few information few seconds on the screen, a small time which appear on the screen at the bottom, right? So which is noticed or not noticed by the user remains a few seconds and disappear automatically. That text information, static information which we can visualize by means of toast. మళ్ళీ చూద్దాం దాన్ని ఒక చిన్న ఎగ్జాంపుల్తో. సో హియర్ ఐ మెన్షన్ ద టోస్ట్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ అండ్ షోడ్ button 1 is clicked and button 2 is clicked based on the conditions, right? So save the file and run the program. Now see the output. Now two buttons are appear on the screen. Say for example, if I click the button 1, I'll get an information button 1 is clicked. If I click button 2 clicked is going to be shown on the screen. Are you able to see this information?
Yes.
So this is the event may be run asynchronously. You may click any number of times the same button, or you may click go for the second button. So will be fired based on the actions. So these are the events, and we are going to be maintained or managed these events based on the IDs. Any doubt in this?
No doubt, sir.
మా ఇక్కడ ఏం చేస్తున్నాం, ఇక్కడ రెండు హ్యాండ్లర్స్కి, రెండు ఈవెంట్స్కి, రెండు బటన్స్కి ఒకే ఒక హ్యాండ్లర్ రాసుకున్నాం ఇక్కడ, రైట్? ఒకే హ్యాండ్లర్ రాసుకొని వీఆర్ ఐడెంటిఫైయింగ్ విచ్ ఈవెంట్ ఈజ్ అకర్డ్ based on the if conditions. Based on the if conditions, and you are going to be identifying which event is raised. Based on that, you are going to be initiated. లేదంటే టూ డిఫరెంట్ ఫంక్షన్స్ రాసుకోవాలి. ఎనీ డౌట్ ఇన్ దిస్? am I clear?
No doubt.
So this is a scenario happens here. You may use the button name dot get id or r dot id dot id1. You may use both notations here. Whether if you are good at using object name button name dot get id or mention r dot id dot whatever the id you are supposed to refer or equal compare with this v dot get id. You may write both, either this notation or our previous notation. You may use like this b1 dot get id, or you may use r dot id dot b button 1. Both are the same, right? Simple program which we discussed so far. And the next topic is the toast. We use the toast from 3 days back onwards. So displaying message, some short messages on the screen by means of toast. Toast is a class, right? So which is used to display certain information, certain period of time, which is not what you can say, we are not giving what you can say authenticated information, or we are not supposed to alert the user to work on that. It is not the case. Noticed by the user or unnoticed by the user doesn't mean. It shows a short message, displays certain few seconds and disappears. So whenever you want to represent any information statically, we may use text view as usual, and also sometimes we may use toast messages. The toast is a transient message that automatically disappears after a while without user interaction. User doesn't require any interaction. He can see or he cannot, but it shows and wait for certain period of time and disappears automatically, right? This is the information. Here we are using only one method, that is a make test. So make test is a method which will accept 3 parameters. The first one is what context you are using, which is the right activity, which is the right activity running. The second thing, what string you are supposed to display. The third parameter is how long it is. So make test of toast will have a three parameters. The first one is the context. Activity context means which activity is current running or which activity this toast message is intended for. You mention very clearly the activity name here. And next one is what type of information you are supposed to show on the screen. You the string has to be represented as the second parameter. The third parameter is we are having two constant keywords here, two constant values, short and long. So you are going to be display certain shorter period or a little bit longer time. Only two possibilities there in this. So it looks like this. The two constants are, first one is the toast dot length underscore short. The second thing is toast dot length underscore long. Length underscore long, length underscore short, these are in uppercase letters. This is a constant, right? So whether you want to show shorter period, use short, a little bit longer period, use long. This is the keyword or this is the constant which represents the duration of that particular message. And at the end, we need to use one method, that is show method. By putting a dot and followed by, you mention show method. The show method display the content on that particular activity. So whatever the activity is running on that particular activity, the show method is going to be shown that particular toast information certain period of time. This is information toast dot make test followed by the activity name, what activity you are supposed to visualize or use, you mention, and followed by the next one is the string followed by the string, what string you are supposed to show on the screen, and mention the last parameter as the duration, how much time, toast dot length underscore short, and finally put a dot and mention show. The show is meant for to show, to visualize on that particular activity. ఓకేనమ్మా, ఇది ఏం చిన్న ప్రోగ్రామ్ చూద్దాం దీన్ని. ఇది ఐ విల్ షో యూ a simple program for this. Yeah. నువ్వు మర్చిపోకుండా కృషి చేయి. అమ్మ, is it visible? The screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Here a simple example. I didn't did anything in this. I just take a simple hello world application, but only thing is I added a toast message for this, right? the Here I can represent the toast message in two ways. The first method is you may write very clearly in a single line itself, toast followed by make test and get application context. Whether if you know very clearly about what context, what activity you are using, you mention the activity name here, or else give a chance to the system to get application context by its own. Now this method will take what activity is running, right? And the next one is hello, whatever the information you are supposed to show on the screen, you mention the text, static text. and followed by the constant length underscore short, which is going to be visualized. How long that should be mentioned, either short or long. And the end, we need to represent show followed by open and close parentheses. This line will give you a certain information stating that a shorted period of amount, a toast information is going to be shown on the screen. See how it is. Here you can find hello RECW. It's a simple application, hello world application, but I added a toast message, right? The same is going to be done by means of in detail written statements like I can go for writing instead of a single line, I can write in a detailed manner toast, define one variable for toast, reference variable for toast, mention make text, get application context, hello, and so on. Next one, even you can mention the margin, set margin, and also finally you go for using show. So you may differentiate or segregate it in 2 or 3 lines, or you may go for writing in a single line. The only thing here it is a set margin 50 and 50 like this. Nothing more in this. Save the code again and run the application again. Same you will get hello RECW on the screen. So it is a shorter message, transient, temporary message which will appear certain period of time whether user may notice or unnoticed. But the thing is it shows a period of time and disappears automatically. That's a toast message. ఇది కూడా కొంచెం ఇంపార్టెంట్ చూడమ్మా అప్పుడప్పుడు అడుగుతుంటారు టోస్ ఈజ్ ఎ క్లాస్ వీ నీడ్ టు డిఫైన్ అండ్ వీ నీడ్ ఇంపోర్ట్ దట్ క్లాస్ ఇక్కడ క్లిక్ చేస్తే మనకి అన్ని క్లాసెస్ కనబడతాయి రైట్ సో ఆటోమేటిక్గా ఇంపోర్ట్ అయిపోయింది అది దిస్ అబౌట్ ద టోస్ట్ క్లాస్ ఎనీ డౌట్స్ సో ఫార్ ఇన్ దిస్ ఈవెంట్ హ్యాండ్లింగ్ మెకానిజం సో ఆన్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ టాపిక్ you may write at least simple user interface applications like defining a simple button, defining a simple text box, and so on. We will do more and more applications. Any doubt in this? అమ్మ ఎవరన్నా అన్మ్యూట్ చేసి మాట్లాడానమ్మా యు ఆర్ నాట్ స్పీకింగ్ ఎనీథింగ్
Hello.
హలో
Sir, yesterday
Yes,
I tried to install APK file, sir. It is showing
yes, sir.
some
It is
warning message.
installing, sir.
అమ్మ రిపీట్ విల్ యూ ప్లీజ్ రిపీట్
Sir, yesterday I had tried to install the APK file, but it is showing some warning message, sir.
అమ్మ ప్లీజ్ అలో అమ్మ it is not carrying any sort of unwanted information like viruses and all. So this is coming from private information. That's why the system is warning you that this is untrusted APK file. Whether you want to install, you proceed. The installation is nothing will happen. You proceed.
Okay, sir.
You try to proceed, install and check. The app will appear on the screen. You check, and even if
Okay.
you want, I'll send all. Why? But the thing is here, all these. So usually the files will be there inside bin directory, but here it is not the case. Inside user appropriate username, you can find Android projects. Inside projects, say for example activity life cycle. So all projects are going to be defined in their own packages, in their own folders. అందుకే ప్యాకేజెస్ అనేది నేను చెప్పింది సో దట్ ప్యాకేజ్ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్ విల్ మెయింటైన్ ఎ సపరేట్ ఫోల్డర్ ఇఫ్ ఐ ఎంటర్ ఇన్ టు ద యాక్టివిటీ లైఫ్ సైకిల్ ఆల్ రిలేటెడ్ ఫైల్స్ విల్ బి దేర్ ఇన్ సైడ్ దట్ రైట్ సో అందులో మనకి సో బిల్డ్ అవుట్పుట్స్లో ఉంటుంది చూడండి ఏపీకే ఫైల్స్. ఇక్కడ ప్రతి ప్రోగ్రామ్కి ఇట్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు బి జనరేటెడ్ యాజ్ app_debug.apk. నేను నెక్స్ట్ టైం మీకు పంపించేటప్పుడు నేమ్ మార్చి పంపిస్తాను. అది ద సిస్టమ్ విల్ జనరేట్ ఫర్ ఈచ్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీ ఏపీకే విల్ హ్యావ్ విత్ ద సేమ్ నేమ్. అప్పుడు మీకు ఏమవుతుందంటే రెండు మీరు ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసినప్పుడు ఒకటే కనపడుతుంది, ఓవర్ రైడ్ అయిపోతుంది ఒకటి. యూ ఫస్ట్ ఇన్స్టాల్, చెక్ అండ్ అన్ఇన్స్టాల్ అండ్ గో ఫర్ నెక్స్ట్ ఇన్స్టాల్ అండ్ చెక్. ఇప్పుడు మనం ఇది యాక్టివిటీ లైఫ్ సైకిల్. గో బ్యాక్ టు వన్ మోర్. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ గ్రీట్ యూజర్, సే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇన్సైడ్ యాప్, ఇన్సైడ్ సోర్స్ కాదు, ఇన్సైడ్ బిల్డ్ అవుట్పుట్స్ ఏపీకే విల్ గెట్ సేమ్ app_debug.apk. So the system will generate a common name for each and every APK file. Next time while sending, I'll rename that one with another name and I'll send. For example, today we come across this event, right? I'll send the APK to you right now and you try to check whether it is working fine or not.
Okay, sir.
So I'll take this, I'll copy this and I paste it on desktop. I pasted here. I can rename this one with multiple event.apk. I'll forward the same to you and please verify once if possible. So imagine that such a big project, it is going to be generated such a huge simple file. It is going to be maintain all the information in there. Even we can give our own pictures even. అవి కూడా చూపిస్తాను ప్రాక్టికల్గా, మీరు కొంచెం ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తూ పోండి. multiple.apk. I just dragged over here and I send. You please verify again once this. So hardly the capacity is 2 MB only. కానీ ఇక్కడ చూడండి ఎంత పెద్దగా ఉంటుందో ఫైల్స్ అవి. This multiple events, the capacity of multiple events is 15 MB and above, 16.3 MB on size. But it is compressing in a such a way that only 2 MB is going to be carried with this particular APK file, right? So please do practice all, then only you can analyze what exactly there in there. So this is a simple scenario, but only thing we require practice. Any doubt so far?
No, sir.